For our first panel, I'd like to welcome on stage iangels founding partner, Shelly Odmoyal.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'd like to introduce our panelists for Resilience in Times of Uncertainty. First of all, we have Dr. Ilan Samish, the founder and CEO of Amai Proteins, which makes designer proteins for the mass food market. The first product, Swilin, is the first sweetener that is tasty, healthy, product fit, and sustainable, enabling up to 70% sugar reduction without affecting taste. Next, we have Liry Halperin, the founder and CEO of Leo, an AI scaling platform for digital transformation of the insurance industry. Thank you. And last but not least, we have Dr. Asaf Horowitz, the co-founder and CEO of BrainVivo, a deep tech startup that unlocked the biological neural network of humans. Using its proprietary brain twin technology, BrainVivo is building the first digital brain marketplace, making expert knowledge scalable, available, and affordable. Okay. So, resilience in times of uncertainty. We all know that as startup founders, being resilient in times of uncertainty is probably our number one mission. It's also the claim to fame of Israel, being the startup nation. We survive. We're good at surviving. We've proved it over the years. But today it's especially interesting to talk about this subject. Our industry is actually going through, I think, a once in our lifetime and general lifetime situation where we're not only required to be resilient and to survive and to succeed and to excel, but we're first of all going through a global macro environment which is difficult, recessionary, inflationary, and we're seeing a lot of fear worldwide. But recently, we're also going through a situation at home where there's a major divide over a judicial reform overhaul, depending on who you're asking, which many of us are divided over. And over the years, the high-tech ecosystem, I can speak for myself, we've always been outward-looking. We've always trusted the people that are responsible for the leadership here and focused on our own lives, on our own startups, making sure that we're attracting the right audiences. It's always international. As startup founders, we're never actually looking to innovate within Israel. We're always looking abroad, United States, Canada, Europe, China, etc. And now actually for the first time, we're seeing a significant movement of high-tech investors and entrepreneurs which are taking a major leadership role in educating the citizens, in talking with politicians, in leading the resistance, by the way, on both sides of the spectrum. And this is something that we've never seen before. Our entrepreneurs and our leaders really focusing not only externally but also internally on how do we make our home a great place and remain the startup ecosystem that we are. So with that, we know that a lot of you are very curious, and it's difficult to speak about investing in Israel today without touching upon the elephant in the room. So we've invited several of our entrepreneurs here, some of which are the leaders of this very unique situation, to hear a little bit about their personal perspective in their work internally as citizens of Israel and externally as startup entrepreneurs. So with that, actually, Ilan, I'd like to start with you. You are active in the current national protest to stop judicial reform. You are one of the leaders in the high-tech protest organizations in Comrades of Arms movement. And your words at the Constitution, Law and Justice Committee of the Knesset became the most viewed clip since the protest began. If you haven't heard it, then I recommend and encourage you all. There are videos also with a translation. Ilan, you regularly speak on the main stages of the protest and with Knesset members. What has driven you to participate in this endeavor?
I'm an entrepreneur, and when I see something where there is a big gap which I can help bridge, I try to do it. Whether it is at Amai, the startup that bridges a gap between life in hell and in heaven in the protein space, or whether it is in the national level. And in the beginning of the protest, I felt like everyone is building a castle around their own base and going to the extreme, while I thought that the direction should be to embrace the general agreement, which is well beyond 50%, that we have on the country that we want to be. Now, because you had extremists on both sides that are more loud and took also some of the leadership roles in the Knesset, I thought that there I can make a change. My kids are religious, and I could speak in a language which is a language which speaks for all. So I decided to speak up. I quickly found the leadership that was emerging, really emerging, all people who are putting their own time at night and all have day jobs in the best possible places, and thought that the best place to begin with is go directly to where things begin, which is Simcha Rotman as the chair of the Judicial, Constitutional and Law Committee. They didn't let me talk for 2 days. I sat there for 2 days working on my laptop, doing other things, canceling meetings, which I felt like very bad, but I really think that in the medium and long term for the startup, this is the most important thing. And finally, they did let me talk, and it became viral, and from there things began to flow. I'm active today in the Jewish Religious Democrat, in the Comrades of Arm, and in the high tech. And it's the first time, and I think in very few places around the world, where the two organizations which are really leading everything are the high tech and the Comrades of Arm. The Comrades of Arms are security, and the security here is also the social security. And the glue that puts us together, and it doesn't matter if we are left or right, whether we think about the Shabbat or keep the Shabbat. The sentence in the commandment is think about it and keep it. Some keep it more, some think about it more. And many people, such as Roni Al-Sheikh, who was commissioner of the police and is religious, are people I work with, and we are happy about what we are succeeding to do. And of course, there is a lot of more work to do.
Thank you, Ilan. I want to go also now to Asaf. You're also active in the leadership of the high tech as well as the Conrad of Arms. And you've also created a lot of content and educational information for people. And I wanted to ask you, how do you see this activity in the context of your own startup, Brain Vivo? Do you see this as important, as crucial to the success of Brain Vivo? How does this actually work together in terms of your time commitment?
Thank you. So I have to say that it's super challenging. But I think as CEOs, we have also the responsibility for being a role model for our teams. And I remember at the beginning of I think it was the beginning of January, I sat with the team and I explained that I predict that it's going to be challenging. and that I expect everyone to be active, whatever side they will choose, because this is something about values. And as a CEO of the company, when every weekly meeting, we are reminding ourselves our values for the company and what we want to achieve. And I also think that remembering about like who we are, why we're here in Tel Aviv, in Israel, is also part of it. And it was very hard, and I find myself giving a day off on expense of Ben Vivo for people to demonstrate. Lucky for me, again, talking about people that are understanding the situation in a way that is threatening on society and our democracy and equality and other values that Ben Vivo share, people choose to be active alongside with me and other executive in the company. And I have to say that we worked twice hard. So the reason that people go out on Thursday to demonstrate, they work in Friday and Saturday. So because the work ethics in Israel is so important for people, and they're not forgetting the other values, which are the company. So it's challenging, but last thing I want to say is like I'm finding comfort by doing this with my team and promoting both Brain Vivo and democracy in Israel.
It's not a good time for a lot of sleep.
Yeah, no sleep. Yeah.
But are you actually seeing that you're able to hit KPIs or do kind of what you've planned in terms of budget, even though you have this additional commitment?
Yeah. So some KPIs, yes, and some. Every time, like the KPIs are ambitious, right? Like we really try to push it to the next border or the limit. I have to say that this quarter wasn't as good as we expected. Obviously, like we've been dealing with other stuff, but we have other KPIs like team commitment and stuff that related to work ethics that I think we gained this quarter. So in some parameters we miss, in other parameters I think we gain more value as a team at this quarter, which are also super important in my eyes.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. In many ways, us in high tech, we almost have a front row ticket to what's coming in terms of the economy and how the world is reacting to us. Liri, you spend a lot of time here, a lot of time abroad. All your customers are abroad. Please share with us a little bit of your experience. What are you seeing? What are your customers seeing? And is there any influence on the situation worldwide, not just in Israel, but also the macro environment? Is there any influence that you see on your business?
Yeah, so like you said, there's the macro, right? We have the economic slowdown, we had COVID-19, the bank collapse in 24 hours, and you needed to wait a week to meet your money. So there's a lot of crisis. We also have the domestic one. But you also, as a founder, always have, the internal crisis where a key figure decides to leave the company. So you have to be super creative. You need to analyze and then think what next you should do. So with the economic slowdown, we actually decided to change the business strategy. We decided to go down market and start to sell to small agencies instead of large one with long sales cycles. And it worked great. I think, sometimes you need someone to push you off a cliff in order to fly. So, Israel is some kind of a startup. And I think we all have this creativity and the agile approach. So this is why I think we are resilient, and we will be in a better point at the end of this crisis, as Ilan said.
If I may add a point, something that is very interesting, especially in the high-tech leadership, but not only. We are a team, and we don't have ego. The amount of work put behind the scenes, I just got this morning from someone a speech that I'm helping to edit a little bit. And this is one small example. I get all the time help from so many people. So one thing is we are a team. we have a cause and we don't have ego. I'm not going into politics, but there are new forces that will go also to the political leadership. And the second part, which is really interesting, is that we are pro, we are not against. And at Amai, we have people who are from all sides of the political map. We are very heterogeneous and we celebrate that, and we want everyone to feel comfortable whether they are pro-reform or whether they are against a judicial coup, and it's two sides of what is going on now. And with that in mind, there is also a lot of education about facts, and many circles in the highest levels of talking together from all sides of the Israeli quilt, which has more than 2 dimensions, about how we move forward with the different views in a way that we can all survive here.
And maybe to add to this, I think this is also a great opportunity. And, you know, I understood, and I think a lot of us understood, that the basic laws that we have today are not strong enough, because tomorrow the next government can decide to change them. So I think this is a huge opportunity to work on that and to think of a more solid way to work according to the basic laws.
I agree 100%, and I'm also encouraged by the fact that the international community and Moody's, for example, have acknowledged the Israel society and its strength and its ability and its desire, agility, and its desire for democracy, which literally prevented them from downgrading Israel's credit score at the moment. And so I think this is something to be proud of and to continue. Maybe, I don't know how we are on time, but if there are questions from the audience, we're happy to take a few.
What happens at the end when you get to a resolution?
There is no end. It's a process.
What happens when it's sort of, as a CEO, you get to that point of collapse? What happens when you get to that point of exhaustion, or you finally, there's a moment of kind of crescendo, and everyone falls off the cliff and is exhausted. So how are you intending to bring your companies through that journey? Because you're in such an emotional state at the moment. The emotional energy is free. It's being used expensively, and it will come at a cost. How are you going to manage that?
I was last night here at Kaplan demonstrating, which for me was after a few weeks where I was talking on stages not at Kaplan. And afterwards, we had a meeting of leadership people from quite a few organizations, and we are talking about it. We don't think there will be a crescendo. It's a long process. There is also some money involved, and some of the organizations are beginning to also have some paid employees. I can go into numbers, but there is enough money to have also people who can sustain things longer. But the very fact that yesterday, for 17 weeks now, we have more than 400,000 people around Israel, half of which are in Kaplan, half in other places, says it's all.
Just to say in comparison, it's like 20 million Americans go out to the streets every week for 17 weeks. Which is powerful, first of all. And another thing I want to talk about resilience. I was the captain in the Israeli Navy for 7 years, and on my reserve duty, I'm also co-founded in the Naval Academy, a group of people that teach and evaluate the cadets how to build a resilience. So I'm dealing with resilience a lot of my time, and I have to say that because of the situation we discussed before, like how Israel been formed, about the fact that 75 years of our existence, we are being pushed to the wall, okay, every day. This is how we live, this is how we grew up, this is how we are raising our children. So this is not something which is like frightening us or cause yes, it's a challenge, but Israelis are up to the challenge. And I think we are blossom when you have a challenge. And the most critical part on resilience is the way you go into fight or flight. Depends. But more important is like
What
how
is
you
flight?
go back. Fight?
What is flight? I only
Sorry,
know fight.
fight or flight?
Or freeze.
Or freeze.
We know how to fight.
Yeah, we know how to flight also, some of us. But bottom line, it's like your ability to go back to regular emotions and to keep calm on normal time. So this back and forth, this is something that our muscles are being trained to do. So I think it's something that we used to, and as we discussed, it's a process. And we are super optimistic that eventually that will be a good thing for Israel. We will come out stronger and better society.
Thank you.
I think the combination of a founder in a startup and an Israeli is unstoppable.
And a challenge. So wait. So in conclusion, investing in Israeli startups can be rewarding and lucrative, even in times of economic and political uncertainty. Our innovation-driven economy, our talent, our perseverance, our commitment to the sector is unique, I think, in the whole world. And combined with a very mature venture capital ecosystem and global connections, this makes Israel one of the most attractive investment options for people that are looking for tech. At iangels, we always say that we believe in going beyond. Everybody here and in general, our entrepreneurs do go beyond, and I think, if anything, today is proof for that. And so I want to thank you, Asaf, Liri, and Ilan, for joining us today. It was a real pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you, Shelley. And I must add one point. iangels led our first equity round. They did, and since then we had many other investors. They did the deepest and most comprehensive due diligence. And I think with this in mind, when you want to invest, when you want a good ROI, a faster one, you do it at times of low and not at times of high. So now is the best time to do it.
Thank you.
Agreed.